Good morning and welcome to the programme. Today I can welcome an athlete who has let her running do the talking and rarely gives interviews, but Caster Semenya. Good morning and welcome to the programme. Today I can welcome an athlete who has let her running do the talking and rarely gives interviews, but Caster Semenya's story is one many others have told for her over the years, and now she wants to tell it herself. She's my first guest on Woman's Hour today, and while you may remember her for winning gold medals at the Olympics, you'll probably also remember the leaking of her private medical records after she was required to take a test by a sports governing body to prove she was a woman. Also, on today's programme, we'll bring you what you need to be listening out for in the King's speech, his first in post, in terms of the government's legislative programme, and one of the female campaigners who can claim some success. And the unmistakable voice of Kirsty MacColl there, but why did such a brilliant lyricist have more commercial success singing other people's songs? As a new box set is released of her work, the music journalist Jude Rogers will be here paying tribute to her talent. And speaking of days, as we heard in that song, how incredible is the news about breast cancer today, hopefully affording many more women many more days with their loved ones, as a drug already in use for treating breast cancer is now approved for those women with a family history to take as a preventative option. Of course, there'll be complications and issues and side effects and all those things to talk about, and we will do that, we hope, with some detail. But I did also want to use this opportunity on this day to mark that by saying that as a breakthrough, but also say to you that if you are deemed eligible to go on that particular journey to take that drug, we would love to hear from you. We would love to follow your story. Do get in touch with us here, 84844. That's the number you need to text the programme. On social media, we're at BBC Woman's Hour, or email me through the website. You know I like to hear from you. Or you can choose to send a WhatsApp message or voice note. The number you need for that, 03700 100 444. So do get in touch. And as ever, anything else you hear on today's programme, please feel free to make yourself heard. But sitting in front of me here in the Woman's Hour studio, I can't say this very often, a two-time Olympic champion, three-time world champion. In 2016, she won the 400, 800 and 1500 metre titles at the South African National Championships in the space of just one afternoon. I don't know if that makes you feel rather lazy, I know I do. But Caster Semenya is one of the most decorated athletes of her generation, but she's also one of the most scrutinised. The South African shot to fame in 2009 after winning the 800 metres at the World Championships in Berlin, aged 18, with astonishing speed. But what happened next was extraordinary. Her private medical records were leaked after she was required to take a test to prove she was a woman. Ever since, Caster's career, for all its highs, has been defined by a battle between her and World Athletics, the sports governing body, about her right to compete. She was born with differences of sexual development, or DSD, as it's sometimes referred to, a term that refers to varying genetic conditions, and in Caster's case, means she has an elevated level of testosterone. As the rules currently stand, and they have changed a few times, this means she cannot compete in any track events without taking testosterone-reducing drugs, something she's previously done, to devastating effects on her health. World Athletics has said it is only interested in protecting the female category, and that if we don't, quote, women and young girls will not choose sport. Caster Semenya's had many fans around the world, but also one in Nelson Mandela, the late South African president, in fact telling her to shut up and run. And until recently, we rarely heard from her in interviews. But today I'm delighted she joins me here in the Woman's Hour studio to coincide with the launch of her new book, The Race to Be Myself. Caster Semenya, good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. And as I say, it isn't often I have Olympic champions sitting in front of me. And I just want to start with a moment of joy, if I can, because when you are successful, you do something that is called, or you call, the Cobra. What do you do, and where did that come from? How do you celebrate?
My celebration, I think it comes from my childhood. I grew up in rough circumstances. And, I grew up in the bush. I've always hunted. So it's a combination of, eagle, cobra, obviously with my strength. I flex. It's those fists, and then I dust the shoulders. So, yeah, it's only if you're a hunter, you'll understand what I'm talking about. But, nonetheless, that's what defines me. The strength in me, the positivity and everything. So, yeah.
It's quite a good thing. I really like the shoulder bit in particular.
Of course, the shoulder one says I'm untouchable, When an eagle goes for anything deadly, Of course.
They're going to get it.
Do.
It's great. I'm always fascinated as well with athletes, how they have superstitions and they have to do the same thing each time and how they develop those rituals and where they come from. So it's good to be able to ask you. But I know you were keen on football as well growing up, but where did running come from? And when did you realise you were pretty good at it?
No, I've always been a fast kid. You walk at 7 months. You've been running around, at age of 4, playing football, on the dirt, grounds, dusty places. But I think running comes just within. My dad used to be a good, footballer. He used to be a good runner. My mom played a good netball. So I think it's genetic, But with me, I've always been that, young girl who has always, wanted to challenge herself. Always experimental in terms of, testing, my skills, my abilities into all sporting codes. You name them all. I played, baseball. I was keen, to be a boxer. I liked, martial arts. So I would say, it runs into my blood. But when I discovered that I can run, I just said, you know what? If my idols can do that, why not me? So I tried, from age of 6 when I first, stepped my foot into school. And since ever then, it was all about, football, running. Then when I was in grade, standard in South Africa, that's what we call. I was in high school. When I was in grade 9, that's when I decided, you know what? I want to do this thing, take it seriously, see where it will take me because, soccer, it's a team sport. I don't know how it will, how long it will take me to become a world champion or, hold a World Cup trophy, especially in football. It may never happen, but with athletics, I see it's something that takes me, far. I can travel. I make my own decisions. I don't blame anyone. When I win, I win. When I lose, I go back, to the drawing box and fix. And, fortunately, I got people around me who will advise me, take me through, the knowledge of what it takes to become, a great athlete.
It's interesting, though, that choice to be a solo performer, as it were, and have it on you to do that. And I did talk about this, but it was quite the moment, I imagine, from your perspective. You were 18 when you first won gold at the World Championships in Berlin. And what should have just been an incredible moment for that reason became something else. Because in your book, you talk about the fact, you reveal you were tested by what was then known the IAAF, now known as World Athletics. What was your understanding why? Taking yourself back there.
I think for me, it came by surprise when, I discovered that these were gender tests. But for me, I understood that I was going for, doping test, which is, my federation then, the late, 20, assigned psychologists to come, counsel. But the psychologist, went through the corners. She didn't have guts, just to tell me straight, look, Cass, your gender has been questioned. Instead of that, she just, bushing around the corner just to say, people will talk. I said, people have been talking, you understand? So just get straight to the point, but she couldn't do that. And when I went to the Mediforum, now Mediclinic, when I met, the gentleman there, the gentleman, when he started talking to me, I could understand, what, this can never be, doping test. That may be gender test. Then I asked him, is this gender test or what? And then, he honestly told me, look, I'm sorry to say that, but this is a gender test. And for me, how I took it is because, look, I know I'm a woman. And for me, there's nothing for me to hide. I just told him, look, you got to do what you got to do because I got a flight to catch. I have a world championships, to prepare. I had to pack my bags and stuff like that. And then he did that. But one word he told me before I left, he said, you are slightly different. I said, yeah, I know I'm a different woman.
This is after the test?
Yeah, after the test. He said, I don't know what the results will be, but I hope they don't come, with the disappointments. But, I'm young. I don't care. I care about, having fun. I love athletics. I love running. Then, I get to Berlin. When I get to Berlin, I ran the first heats. Then after the heats, when I came back from the hotel, IAAF, now World Athletics, assigned someone to come draw blood. It's a normal, blood that have been
Take a blood test.
randomly.
Okay.
And then they take the blood. After the semi-final, they did the same thing. So then I asked one of the coaches, what's going on? Why am I tested like I'm a cheat or something? And he also told me, look, because you're young, you're doing quite well. Of course, these are procedures that need to be taken. Only to realize after that, the test, arrived, in Berlin. And my president, sent the vice president to me to say, look, Cass, I have bad news for you. The test that you took in Pretoria is bad. I'm afraid we might have to withdraw you from the races. I didn't know anything about this high elevated testosterone stuff like this. I said, hell no, I'm not going to withdraw from any championship. I'm here to run. I'm here to do my best, and I'm gonna represent my country. And they took me again, in Berlin to a hospital to do the very same test, but this one, it was slightly different. They said, no, they need to evaluate. I said, it's fine. I'm a woman, I have a vagina, so just like any other woman. So I don't really mind, you understand? But it goes to a point where they wanted to, go, physical. I'm like, you're not going to do anything like that. But the only thing that you're gonna do, you'll go behind. You're not gonna penetrate me or do anything because that's a violation. I can never allow anyone to violate me to that extent. And they look at each other, be like, I say, yeah, you're gonna do that. You understand? And for me, at that point, I started understanding how the world works because I felt like these people wanted me to feel like, unwelcome. They made me feel like I don't belong into the sport. But most important thing is that I was like, okay, if they think I'm not women enough, I got nothing to hide. And the results came. Then they told me that, you know what, you have to withdraw. And then I told the president of, South African Federation to say, look, I studied sports science, and I had knowledge about sports law. I like, look, I know everything that is happening here. And if you guys think I'm going to withdraw from this championship, it's over my dead body. If there's any man who wants me off the track, have to drag me off the track. And the president, had these big eyes and be like, what? I said, yeah, that's what's going to happen. And do me one favor. It's either you're going to withdraw from the council to support me, or then it's your choice. It's not mine. But what I know is that I'm going to go there and do my best. And he did so. After a few hours, tell me, you know what? I'm going to withdraw from the council and fight for what is right. I said, my man, I respect you for that.
So you go ahead with the race?
Yes.
And this is the one I'm talking about, the one you go on to win.
Yeah.
So you got, a lot of people in your position talk about being in the zone.
Yeah.
And you have all that going on.
Of course.
Just before. But if I may, and this is part of the book and where you go into the detail.
Yeah.
You did learn something about yourself at this time.
Yes.
That should have stayed private.
Yeah.
It didn't. It was leaked. We'll come to that if we can. You learn, and I'm quoting from your book, that you didn't have a uterus.
Of course.
Or fallopian tubes.
Yes.
And other elements of your body that you didn't know about.
Yeah, I didn't know about it, but
how, if I may, how did that make you feel at that point to learn that information? On one hand, you're fighting for your right to compete, but I'm imagining myself in your position that I didn't know this about myself.
Yeah. I think for me as a young girl, remember at that moment, I don't know anything about the leak, of the results. My focus is more on
the race.
And they say they leaked. I knew that after, weeks that, the results have been leaked. Because I suspected something after semifinals when I was asked, there's rumors that you may be a man, there's a clip out there. I was like, I don't really care, you understand? But in my mind during that championship, I was in the zone where I focused more on competition than a negativity because how I was raised, I'm prepared, for perfection.
So when did you process this new information about you?
No, I processed this, I think, after after years, because you see, after that championship, when this thing happened, remember, I sidelined myself from the news. So whatever that has been happening, I never read the news. Even today, I don't really read newspapers. I don't do that, you understand? Because I focus on myself than anything else. So when that happened, I remember they were hiding newspapers. I said, guys, don't waste my time. I don't really have time for this, because at the end of the day, that's when I own myself. I realize I have the power in me to do what is right for me. You understand?
Because it's it's such personal information, and a lot of people would have found that. I know you were trained as an athlete,
of course,
but at the age of 18 as well, would have found finding that out and also having it leaked such a violation.
It's a violation, but remember, it's something that I cannot control. At the end of the day, it's out there, but they've done me a favor because I had to learn through it. There are people who had to learn through it, you understand? Now people, they know that there are women out there, with differences, you understand? And I think it's an important, matter, especially in women's sports, to understand that women with differences, they are not threats.
But you also say in your book very plainly, because you've had a lot of things said and written about you. This is your opportunity. Yeah. You make it clear, although you learn you also had undescended testes, you don't produce sperm and you aren't a hermaphrodite, because these were some of the things that were written and said, not even always by people who are wanting to say it in necessarily a bad way. There was a lack of understanding because of how the information came out, and also just generally how people talk about these things.
Of course. But for me, it's not about what people label you. It's about knowing your identity. It's about you knowing yourself. I think for me, that's when, self-discovery comes. That's why the book is A Race to Be Myself. That's when I start understanding myself, understanding the woman I am. And for me, I wouldn't say because I have, the internal testes, but they don't produce anything. They don't mean anything. It's more like a disorder in the medical term. And even Sebastian knows that. Even Sebastian knows that. Yes, you understand. They know that it does not play any role in sports.
Now, I accept that you process and still process what's happened to you in your own time, but it did then affect your ability to do your job.
Yes,
because
of course.
You came to an agreement
Yeah.
with the World Athletics governing body to take the contraceptive pill to lower your testosterone. Because in most lines of work, it wouldn't matter that you'd found out this information, but it was deemed that it did matter. And I want to get to this with you. It affected you greatly, the hormones in this way.
Yes.
Can you describe how it affected you?
Yeah, but, taking the medication, I'll say for me, it was I took it out of desperation for me to get into the, running space again, because you can't just be a champion one time and then you leave. We came into an agreement, and I had to take that, 6 months prior, them clearing me, and it made me sick. I lived, under stress. Every day, you're not happy, you're just in the dark, and, you living with a burning stomach, you have panic attacks, nauseous, you always want to vomit each and every day, those are the things that, people don't know. And when the doctors told me, look, we're only going to let you take this only for 2 years, I was like, yeah, it's fine. As long as I can at least make it to the Olympics, that will matter the most. But it has been hell, if I may say. No one want to get into that situation that I was in, because you end up not liking the person you are. You dislike yourself because it changes everything about your life, your routine. You don't sleep at night. You always, thinking, why am I doing this? But for me, it was just about competition and
being able to do your job. That was the reason for it. I mean, I should say there'll be millions of women who've listened who've taken the contraceptive pill and it hasn't been their experience, or they will relate to some of that in different ways. Of course, if you have any questions about contraceptives, I should say at this point, talk to your doctor about it or GP. Each person has their own response to it. But for you, it was a very different reason you had to take it.
It's a different reason, yeah.
And you are in the business of your body.
Of course.
And physicality.
Yeah.
So on that, Do you think you had an unfair advantage over women not born with DSD, differences of sexual development, with, aka in this case, let's talk about what it means, lower testosterone for the purposes of your sport? Do you think you had an unfair advantage?
No, there's never any unfair advantage over that. Why? Number one, it's just the high elevated testosterone. It does not play any role into sports. And number one, why I say that, if I had advantage, why am I running same times that they're running? Number one, your countrywoman is running the same times that I'm running. How old is she? You get what I'm saying? So you have to understand one thing about sports. Sports has never been fair because of genetics. But in our situation as women, that high testosterone level, it comes as a medical term, is a disorder. It's more like a dead seed that don't work. You understand?
But we have male and female categories. I do understand.
Yeah, I know.
And I'm just looking at the statement that the World Athletics body has sent today. I'm not going to read all of it at this point, but it says, World Athletics has over a decade of research directly from DSD athletes in our own sport that show high testosterone levels do provide an unfair advantage in the female category. That is why our guidelines on testosterone thresholds are, they say, necessary, reasonable, and proportionate to protect the integrity of the female category and have been upheld by 2 courts. That directly goes against what you just said.
Of course. No, but that's their statement. And if they say...
Well, they say it's based on research.
What research? What research? Because it's just well documented. If I may say so, I'm going to give you one example about it. If really women with DSD are playing, they have an unfair, advantage over, other women, why are they running same times that women run? Why aren't they running? Because they say we born a man. So why aren't we running 141 over 800 meters? Why aren't we running 326, over 1,005? So it don't make sense. Even 100 meters, it does not play any role.
In this same statement, it says the research also shows, though, that the frequency of DSD individuals in the elite athlete population is around 140 times higher than you will find in the general female population. So if I put back to you your point you just made to me, is if you're talking about times, you've got a disproportionately high number of DSD women in the women's category. What do you say to that?
What I'm saying is that there's nothing much I can say about that because for me, I want IAAF to really give us a clear instruction about this research that they're talking about. Because if they say they've had 10 years of experience or whatever, my point is there's no such thing as that because we're not doing anything extraordinary that a woman cannot do on the track.
Dr. Russ Tucker, not from this organisation, a sports scientist, has said it's actually very simple. He says women's sport exists for biological reasons. It excludes a biological advantage that creates huge performance implications. He says it's pretty basic, a straight line drawn from chromosomes to testes to hormone levels, because that same hearing found athletes with, just to help people if they don't know as much about this, with what is termed as 46XY DSD. So because they have 46XY chromosomes, which is what you have,
of course,
quote, enjoy a significant sporting advantage over female athletes with XX chromosomes. For example, having greater lean body mass, larger hearts, higher cardiac output. I'm just going to give you the chance to reply to this. Do you see why some say, including the body of sport here, and some fellow athletes have been very outspoken about this, that it is not possible to have a fair competition between the 2 groups?
I still stand firm with what I'm saying, that what they're saying is nonsense. A lean body mass, it comes through training. All those heart and what comes from high altitude. If you
can't train your testosterone level to be higher.
You can't train your testosterone level to be higher, of course.
So you don't believe that gives you any advantage?
I don't believe it gives me any high, advantage because there's nothing that I do, there's nothing that I feel in my body that is different to an extent where I feel like I'm a man. You understand? And
no, I'm not asking about making you feel like,
I'm just saying, in terms of training, I'm going to tell you about training. All women train to perform. If it gives me advantage, that's what I'm saying. Why am I not running any times close to men? As much as they say I'm biologically men. You understand?
But if you are running higher and faster, so for instance, if I look, there was a time for people who again not followed this,
Yes.
where rules did change and you were able to run free of the drugs, taking down your
Yeah, but you see,
testosterone.
now you're talking about
And the
drugs.
and I'm
You're talking
talking
about the drugs.
No. So I'm coming to
Talking
the
about if now I run faster, not taking the drugs.
Yeah. So
because
if we come to
then
that,
they gave me what? A poison.
No,
Yes.
sorry. If I may finish, the biggest occasion, the Rio Olympics,
Yes.
right in 2016, you won. You took gold in the 800 meter. Alongside you on the podium, Francine Niyonsaba from Burundi, who got silver, and for Kenya, Margaret Wambui, who got the bronze.
Yes.
All three medalists are DSD athletes,
Of course.
born with, just to remind, difference of
Yes.
sexual development, and then the rules changed back. Do you see after that why some had concerns? Some of your fellow athletes in the women's category talked about, I cannot compete. I'm trying
But that's their problem because they've been, misfed with wrong information. So for me, you work hard to win medals, and if you look into 2016 and now, the very same women who are crying are saying that and that. Why are they not winning medals? Because we're not there. If really,
some of them will have. Well, I mean, they might not be in it. I'm not the expert on
do
running
your
of the
research,
athletes.
ma'am. Go do
You
your
tell me.
research and go back.
Who's
and
not?
look.
Who's winning now that should have been winning?
Okay. What I'm saying is that the very Lindsay Sharp, Melissa Bishop, they've been complaining about that.
Yes.
I'm gonna quote those names.
Okay.
What did they win after we have been off the track?
Well, they don't necessarily mean that they should necessarily win.
No. It's about winning.
I mean, Lindsay's not here to respond.
As well,
to be fair.
they've been racial because they will say, "I'm the first, European. I'm the first, peach skin colored, to."
So you think it was?
race."
You think it was
Yeah, this is
mixed with race?
Yeah, it mixed with race, and as well as this regulation, it targets only African and Asian women. You tell me who's a European who's affected by the rules. And also, I quote, if women's sports is being taken seriously, why are men regulating women's sports? Why isn't women doing the very same thing? Why is it women given a chance to have a say? As
Well,
women.
I mean, that's a whole bigger question that we do every day on this program. No,
Yes.
seriously, about women's,
No,
about
that's
who
what I'm
runs
saying.
things.
That's what I'm
We did
saying.
invite
Yes.
Lord Sebastian Coe,
Yes.
President of World Athletics, onto the program. I'd love him to come on
Of course.
and talk, and that would be a question we
Yes.
could definitely put.
Yeah.
But it's important to hear from you on whether you think, because what you're not to do with
Yes.
is the row over trans. That's
course.
not to do with anything
Yeah,
in
yeah,
your
I know,
career.
I know.
No, but I think it's important I say that, and you've said it,
Yes.
because you've been wrapped up
Of course.
in that.
Yeah.
And someone who has been very outspoken about that has been the Olympic British swimmer, Sharon Davis. And she's talked about, if we're not careful, then in 10 years, all the records in men's sport will be held by men, and all the record in women's sports will be held by women who carry a Y chromosome. I think we need to look into reclassifying things. That's one quote of many she's talked about.
Yeah.
What it speaks to is whether you support, in any circumstance, any other categories. Do you support? Because you've talked about there being a variety
course,
of how men and women can be.
Yeah.
We have now seen on the trans side of things, again, I'm going to stress that that's separate, we have seen a change on this with, for instance, the latest rules from World Athletics, transgender women being banned from competing in the female category. That's also been followed by British cycling, swimming, triathlon and rugby. Do you think that's right?
I cannot say anything about trans situation because I'm not a trans. You understand?
But
I
as a competitor, would you have been happy to have competed against a trans woman?
I don't have a problem with anyone in competition because end of the day, when I'm here to compete. I'm here to entertain. You understand? For me, it's not really a matter of your differences. It does not matter about your circumstances or who you are, how you're built.
But you
For
believe
me,
in
I
fairness. You believe in being
I
able to
believe in
compete.
fairness, and that's why I'm saying I'm not going to comment in a trans situation because I'm not a transgender. That
You have an opinion, no?
No. That's not my place to say because I'm not transgender. At the moment, you called me here for my situation where I can answer
You
for
could
my
completely
situation.
refuse to say. I'm
Yes,
surprised you
I
don't have an
can't.
opinion.
No. I don't have opinion on that at the moment. I don't have a problem with them, but at the moment, I need to be able to speak on my behalf on what I feel is
And
right.
how does it
Understand?
how does it feel to speak? because
speak?
and do this now because you have decided to do it. It is a decision. So many people spoke for you and wrote about you.
Okay,
does it feel good
for
to
me?
do
Effect.
this?
Let me tell you something about this. It will not be fair for me to talk on behalf of trans family.
I
You
understand.
understand? It's very simple. I can't say anything about that because I'm focused on me at the moment, specifying to say, look, women with DSD are not a threat in sports. It ends there.
And my question was slightly separate, which was, I understand you don't want to talk
Yes.
away from your situation.
Yeah.
Although it would have been interesting to hear your
Of
opinion,
course.
and I'll stand by
No,
that.
It will come
as the
for another
question.
day. I don't have a problem to
Well,
answer
I look forward to,
Yes,
to having
I
you
don't
back
have
on
a
Woman's
problem
Hour.
about that.
But how does it feel finally, Castor Semenya? Because a lot of people were excited to hear from you this morning on
course.
the programme. How does it feel to be using your voice like this?
No,
Does it feel liberating?
It feels great. It feels great because we educate people about women with DSD, and we make sure that they understand that women with DSD are not a threat into any sports. They're just women like any other women. They're just born with their differences. So
Do you
for
think
me,
you'll
yeah,
do you think you'll
I'm
achieve
happy.
do you think you'll achieve a change though? Because the rules are
No,
not that.
yeah, that's what I'm here for. I'm gonna fight it till it gets to where it's supposed to be because I'm about fighting for what is right. Yeah.
Finally, you're not running at the moment.
Yes.
What do you like to do in your spare time to cool off and enjoy yourself? Is it still running but not competitively?
No, I run
or is
every
it-
day. I'm a coach.
You are a
coach. I
coach.
run development programs to avoid such nonsense to happen to any other kids, to make educate them about self-love. Make sure that they understand what they're getting into.
And
especially into
I should say
sports.
you've
Yes.
got children with your
Yes,
wife,
of course.
and you've
Yes.
got.
Yeah.
Would you recommend them to get into
No,
sports?
no ways. Why must they come and do athletics? Specifically athletics, they will not do athletics.
That's it.
Yes, that's it.
Interesting. It's always
Yeah,
interesting
no,
to
they
hear
won't do athletics. No.
what they're going to do. Do you think?
Oh, tennis, golf, swimming. Yeah.
I can now see you as one of those.
I need to take them away from this nonsense of women being treated like they're animals.
Well, I mean, there's a very serious point in there, but you're also somebody I can imagine on the sidelines being a good competitive parent on behalf of their child. We see them in the sporting world, and I know your family are very proud of you.
Yeah.
And the story is all in the book, which is fascinating.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much for being with us today.
Thank you
the book
very
is
much.
the book is called quite aptly "The Race to Be Myself," and it's very powerful. Castor Semenya, thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Many messages, I'm sure, to go through and talk.